So about a month or so ago, we did some first impressions. We did a first impression on 3 different Creed fragrances that were coming out, and I was very excited to talk to you guys about them. I really enjoyed them, but then I forgot to do full reviews on them. And so I decided I was going to come back and do a full review compilation after I got some wares out of all 3. But today we're going to be going through, doing a little bit of a deep dive into the new fragrances from the House of Creed. There is still one coming out. It's another one in the Amber Trio. I don't know the name of it, but today we're going to be doing a deep dive into Creed Centaurus, Creed Delphinus, and then a little bit of a look into what I already did review, which is the Triple H batch of Absolu Aventus and whether it is worth a pickup. So that's what we're talking about today. So without further ado, let's get it. What's good, my great smelling dudes? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Randy, aka Fragrance Dude, back at you with new releases. I mean, pretty much that's all that I've been talking about lately. Again, new releases after new releases after new releases, and it just doesn't stop. And I guess that's not a bad thing, but when it comes to financially, it does, especially because my furnace and air conditioner just went in the exact same day, costing me $8,300, not including the $1,200 that I had to put into dental. So, yeah, that has been my life lately. But anyway, you guys don't care about that. Before we get into these Creed fragrances, make sure that if you're not already, you hit that like button. Also hit the subscribe button if you're not already, and comment below and let me know if you've tried any of these 3, what you think of them. And I'm just going to get one out of the way real quick because honestly, it doesn't need to have a full deep dive into it because I've already done a full review and first impression on Absolu Aventus. Then I did a first impression on the Triple Aged batch. This is the Triple Aged batch of Creed's Absolu Aventus. Really, a lot of people have been saying, this is cash grab, this is cash grab. Yeah, it is. Really, if you have Absolu Aventus and then you kind of just let it sit on your shelf for 6 months, you have the same fragrance that's sitting here. It's just the original batch of Absolu Aventus was meant as a limited distribution only, limited time only. And then they got a lot of sales, I'm guessing, and so they decided to bring it back. And so instead of just being like, oops, we shouldn't have done that and we should have made it a full release, they decided to put Triple Aged on it because they probably had that's what they did. And so when it comes to Triple Aged Absolu Aventus, the batch that I have is 002655. It just kind of smells like a deeper, slightly more resinous, almost a little bit sweeter version of the Absolu Aventus. And while it is better, I can guarantee you it's better, and it lasts about 2 hours longer than the original Absolu Aventus, which will already last a long time. If you already have a bottle of Absolu Aventus, it's redundant. It's the same exact thing, just aged 6 months. There's 2 different processes. There's the maturation process that happens at your house, or maturing, that really takes precedence over the first 6 months to a year, even though they always keep maturing. 6 months to a year is usually the biggest thing. That's the triple age part of it. And then there's the maceration, which usually happens before they're actually bottled. And that's what they're saying. The triple aged is supposed to be the maceration process. There's not much of a difference. And when it comes to that, that's really when the oils are blending together with the perfumer's alcohol. So it's the same thing that's happening at your house if you had a bottle of Triple Aged Aventus, Absolu Aventus. It's still going to be warm, resinous. It's going to have a little bit of freshness in there. It's just a really nice fragrance that's getting cloned to death nowadays. So, do I recommend buying that? Yeah, I mean, buy it. It's going to be decently priced. It's just the non-limited release of Absolu Aventus. And if you already have Absolu Aventus, you don't need to buy it. Because your bottle will end up smelling like that at some point in time anyway. All right, so that's the end of that. I'm not going to talk about that anymore, but now I want to talk about the actual new releases. This is called the Amber Trio. I found out about it earlier this year. They released the first 2. The first 2 are Creed Centaurus and Creed Delphinus. There is a third one coming out, I'm not sure when. And they are in collaboration with Selfridges, which I don't know what that is. I think it's something that's over in Europe. but they're 3 different fragrances. And so the first one we're going to talk about is the first one that I got in, and this is Creed's Centaurus, or Centaurus, whatever you want to call it, doesn't really matter. But anyway, we do the full note breakdowns whenever we do the full review. So the top notes are cardamom, cinnamon, tobacco, and pink pepper. Mid notes are geranium, sandalwood, heliotrope, jasmine, and patchouli. Base notes are benzoin, tolu balsam, tonka bean, ambroxan, and bourbon vanilla from Madagascar. So what do I think of this? I think this might be the best fragrance release of the year. Don't listen to Fragrantica. They always hate on Creeds. Both of these fragrances are really good. And I gotta tell you, the new owners of Creed, I thought they were going down the wrong path until they released these 2 fragrances. Oh my goodness. It's really a beautiful, resinous, spiced tobacco fragrance that, when it first starts out, it's almost like a niche version of Spice Bomb Infrared with tobacco. That's really like with tobacco heavy, because I know there's tobacco in that, but it reminds me of that. There's that spice, a little bit of the benzoin. There's the bourbon vanilla that comes in way further in, but it reminds me of like a dry leafy tobacco heavy version of Spice Bomb Infrared. Kind of like that, or stronger with you tobacco, but with a little bit extra kind of like zest to it, like a little bit more sweetness. And I actually like this much better than Stronger With You tobacco. So this still has a little bit of that Creed style, which is that gentlemanly kick. So if you like those style of fragrances from Creed, the ones I'm talking about would be like Bois de Portugal and Creed's Royal Oud, where they have certain facets to the fragrances that Creed is always known for, and that is that extra amount of gentlemanly quality. And this one, and Delphinus, well, Delphinus is a little bit less. This one still definitely has it. This is unisex, leaning masculine, and I would actually say, and go as far as to say this is definitely masculine, but some people have told me otherwise. But anyway, so when you first spray this on, it's spiced. There's pink pepper. There's a little bit of cinnamon, even though I thought the cinnamon would be heavier. It's not. There's benzoin giving this resinous sweetness. You get a little baby bit of the bourbon vanilla in there, a slight bit of woods, and then the tobacco. It starts down here, and just like a bar graph, it just starts going up, and then you start getting more tobacco as it gets to 10 to 20 to 30 minutes. This is perfect for the fall and winter. Probably the best release of the year, in my opinion, of all niche, whatever. This is my favorite release of the year. Once I'm out of this 15 milliliter, I'm buying a bottle of it. And then again, it has this kind of gentlemanly spice underneath it. Not sure where that's coming from. If I think of the notes, maybe a little bit of the cardamom and heliotrope and jasmine mixed together. But once you get to the mid, you get a little bit of the aromatic geranium that comes in, providing a bit of sweetness as well. Really like that about the geranium in this. And I've always been a big fan of geranium, especially from some of the high-end designer fragrances out there like YSL and whatnot. I've always been a big fan of geranium and clary sage especially. But once you get to the dry down of this, once that kind of spice and the gentlemanly quality starts to sit down a bit, you do get a little bit of this kind of vanillic mixture that mixes together with the tobacco. And it kind of just stays linear, where it doesn't change too much. And the tobacco is starting to just calm down a bit because the vanilla is mixing into there. Bourbon vanilla is my favorite style of vanilla out there. It brings this kind of creamy balsamic version to it. But overall, it brings the dry down brings a bit of woods, it brings a bit of vanilla, and that's kind of where it gets to more of almost like a cuddling fragrance. So this is the perfect fragrance during the fall and winter to wear out like on a date. Because by the time you get done with that date and you're at 2 hours or so and you're going home and you want to watch a movie and cuddle or whatnot, and I hate using that word because I'm not a tool, but with that said, this one, when you get to the dry down, it's an easy cuddling fragrance because of the fact that it has that nice, soft, balsamic vanilla mixing together with that tobacco as it's starting to calm down. but I love the dry leafy tobacco. I love the spice. I love the resins. The benzoin in this just brings that nice sweetness, and then the overtone of the spice is just very beautiful. The pink pepper and that cardamom again bring a little bit of the gentlemanly quality with the heliotrope is what I'm guessing, and then you get a slight creamy woody tone. But overall, Creed Centaurus is great, and this one, it lasts about 8 hours, and then it starts to just crawl away from my skin. But I've heard some people say that it lasts a little bit less, and some people say it lasts a crap ton more. I haven't sprayed it on clothes. Obviously, that's going to make it last probably 2 days. But just on me, on my skin, it was around 8 hours. So that is Creed Centaurus. I give it a 9 to a 9.2. I think it's a great fragrance. Absolutely fantastic. Going into the next one. This is the other side of that was supposed to be more for women. At least I thought that's what it was supposed to be. This is part 2 of the Amber Trio. This is Creed's Delphinus. Creed Delphinus, the top notes are black pepper, incense, almond, and pink pepper. Mid notes are heliotrope, orchid, and orris butter. Then the base notes are patchouli, tonka bean, amberwood, leather, and bourbon vanilla. So the way that this fragrance acts, it has a little bit of the almond and the vanilla mixing together, and it's a slight bit of powder. It almost comes off like a slight bit of Parfums de Marly Pegasus if you mix that with like a buttery orris. I get that a little bit. I know a lot of people have been saying that, so I've been trying to like understand that. But for me, the way that the tonka bean comes across here, it almost comes across like a leathery sweetness that is underplaying this kind of Gentleman's Society from Givenchy. It has that kind of powdery vanillic tone to it. Mix that together with this kind of rich and warm leathery tone that just underplays the whole fragrance, adding a bit of depth to it. And then you have that almond adding a slight touch of nuttiness. And that is, it really just makes this fragrance shine. And then also, for people who don't really like that makeup style iris, the orris butter, which orris is the root of the iris, it just really shines in this fragrance. To people who are not a fan of that like makeup style iris, this might be something you want to try, because the way that the vanilla and the leathery tones really blend together, it kind of takes that buttery orris, and then it just takes away a lot of that, what you don't like about that powdery iris, and because it's a buttery orris, and so it just really blends very nicely together. I would be amiss if I said that this fragrance was complex, because it's not. This fragrance from opening to dry down is pretty linear. The only difference is it still has a little bit of that gentlemanly quality, like I was telling you. But this is straight down the middle of unisex. This is a winter fragrance, but you can wear it in the fall. It definitely is leaning on that tonka bean as being the main, like tonka and almond as being that main mixture. It's like a nutty tonka with that downplayed kind of dark yet sweet, leathery, vanillic mixture that is underneath it. The fragrance doesn't really go too far past that. If you want a nice iris vanilla fragrance with a little touch of like this leathery undertone, that is what this fragrance brings. It's not multi-dimensional. It's very simplistic, and I think that it's great for what it does. As far as vanillic style iris fragrances, which there have been a lot lately, this is up there as being one of my favorites. Again, that orris or iris is masked, and it's not as prevalent and in your face where it's like overly powdery or whatnot. This to me is more of a creamy balsamic, which just like Centaurus, they do have that same ambery tone to both of them. Both of them are an amber based fragrance, and both of them are going to have this balsamic vanilla, and you can tell there's a lot of the same notes in both of them. But Creed Centaurus goes down more of that gentlemanly path with the tobacco and the spices, while this one goes down more of that dry down of Centaurus, where it is more down the path of kind of more of a sensual vanillic iris. Again, it's that tonka, so it does have a little bit of powder, but I would definitely recommend trying this if you're a fan of any type of iris or vanilla or tonka style fragrances. Even if you are not a huge fan of powder like I am, it's still a great fragrance, again, because this creamy tone and that buttery aura kind of just mask it. As it gets to the dry down, it doesn't really change too much. You get a little bit of a woody tone. This one isn't as in your face as what you get with Centaurus, where it's well above average pushing out for the first like 4 or 5 hours. This one pushes out for about an hour and a half, but then it gets closer to your skin. As is this style of fragrance. It does push out nice, but sits a little bit closer to your skin, giving you a nice personal bubble for that same amount of time, about 5-6 hours. And it only lasts about 7 hours on my skin, so it's a little bit less than Centaurus, but again, on clothes it's going to be more. But all three of the fragrances are great. So if you haven't tried any of them or the original Aventus Absolu, I think all three of these are worth trying. But I would recommend getting a decant first. I mean, ScentRush.us is who sent these to me, so thank you to them. I'll put the link in the description. They have very good prices for decants, but I would give Centaurus, again, like a 9 to a 9.2, and I'd give Delphinus like an 8.5. I think it's really, really good, and Absolu Aventus is an 8.5 as well. So, yeah, those are my three, and those are the ones I'm talking about. Let me know if you've tried them out, what you think of them, which one is your favorite. I'm really looking forward to wearing them going into the fall and winter. I think I'm going to buy Centaurus in the fall and then Delphinus in the winter to try to wear both of them. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think, and again, I'll be back with another one. Peace out.